Once you find yourself in conflict with a narcissist, it's a virtual guarantee they're going to start playing head games with you. That's why I put together a new course. It's very extensive called Anger Games. I'm going to teach you how to manage anger and conflict with a narcissist. There's a link below that's going to show you how to register, and I hope that you find it to be very insightful. Living with a strongly narcissistic individual is difficult enough. I mean, whether it's that individual that's inside your home or someone in your extended family or at work or elsewhere, when they come at you with all sorts of control issues and exploitation and insensitivity and unwillingness to know and understand you, they have this haughty, condescending superiority over you. That's bad. That's not easy. But then there are times, and I know many of you have experienced this, when the narcissism will go into overdrive and become abusive. And when we talk about being abusive, we talk about them inevitably ruining your character or trying to ruin your character, and they give you profound mistreatment and disrespect. They try to rob you of any of your dignity. And basically, we can say that there are two general forms of abuse, if you want to put it this way. One is you can have a relationship where there's an ongoing, long-standing, deeply entrenched sense of mistreatment towards you. It's just day in and day out. There's just a lot of indignity that's there. And then second, we can say that the abuse can be episodic. In other words, there's some negative stuff going on, or maybe there's a lack of it for a while, but then boom, one experience comes out and it's bad and it's ugly and it's awful. And then sometimes it's a combination of both. Now, as a therapist, one of the things that I knew is that there would be times when somebody got caught red-handed with doing something really awful, and so they would get hauled into my office because it's like, well, everybody knows you need some work, and so that narcissistic person may be sitting right there in front of me, and we're trying to break down what might have happened when they lost it and became abusive. Sometimes there's another individual, the abused, who's in the office with them, and they're trying to make their case. And at times, that abuser can, the evidence is so strong against them that they sometimes have to say, yeah, I know that wasn't a very good thing. I really blew it. I made a major mistake. I don't know what I was thinking. And they can seem remorseful or regretful that it happened. But over time, and this is one of the most painful things to acknowledge, even those who make sincere confessions can start bargaining within themselves. And it's like, well, it's not what everybody's trying to make it out to be, or I'm not nearly the monster everybody says. And as a result, they can start justifying the abuse that happened. Now, some folks don't even go into the admission part. They just go straight to the justifying. And when a person starts justifying their abuse, there are three extremely predictable patterns that emerge. First is they go into denial. Second, they project. In other words, they see in you what they're not really taking care of within themselves. And then third, they'll do major blame shifting. Now, let me walk you through some of the things that are a part of this justification. And as I do this, I want you to underscore one thing. You're being gaslit when somebody does this. And then second, the justification is itself a continuation of the abuse. And so the more you can see what you're dealing with, the more I'm hoping you can develop objectivity, because the narcissist wants you to pretty much be the fall person. Now, one of the first things that we can say that's common when the narcissist goes into this justification mode is eventually in their bargaining with themselves, they'll say, well, you call it abuse, but it wasn't really abuse. And then they can, which is their denial, and they'll say something like, well, maybe I had a bad day, or maybe I had one bad episode, but you're over interpreting it. And this reflects a narcissist's deep history of refusing to take responsibility for who they are. This is something that they've done for a long time. Why should this one event be any different? So they'll try to sidestep that word abuse. Then another thing that they'll do in their justification is they'll point the finger and say, well, ultimately it was your fault. Now they may not say it quite like that, although they might, but they might say, this sounds like a kid on the playground. Well, you started it. They may say something like that. Or you're the one who triggered me. You're so erratic. You're so unstable. And of course you can see that there's a lot of projection in that. And they're seeing in you what they refuse to take responsibility for within themselves. Another part of their justification, and this is even worse, sometimes they'll actually point blank say, well, you know what? You had it coming. In other words, you deserved it. Now, they may not quite say like that. I've heard it say you've had it coming. And then they'll start citing all sorts of historical evidence about how you have been erratic or you haven't been there for me or, there's something wrong with you and you just drive me crazy. And of course, this is an ongoing effort towards blame shifting. Then, as a continuation of that very thing, they may say something like, well, this would never have happened if you were more respectful towards me, or if you affirm me, or if you could just listen to me. None of this would have happened if you were a better person. And so I'm thinking, okay, so you weren't listened to or you didn't feel respected. And let's even say that's true. Often it's not, but let's say it's true. Does that justify abuse? And so they kind of forget that part. Then another way that they'll justify it is they do this binary thinking and they bring that along with them. And so they may say something like, hey, look, I'm not nearly as bad as you try to paint me out to be. I'm not as bad as you say I am. And it may be true, but that's a minimization. They're minimizing. It's like, well, and then they even may start citing some of the good things. Don't you remember I helped this little old lady across the street, or I gave canned goods to the Salvation Army once, and they may try to come up with something that proves that they're really good. But okay, I'm glad you did those nice things. But the bottom line is that there was still abusive behavior, and your minimizing is its own form of denial. Or in addition, and this is one that I would hear in my office, and I would think, do you seriously think this is going to matter to say this? But they may say something like, well, lots of other people have done a whole lot worse than I did. Now, my reaction is, well, A, we're not talking about lots of other individuals. B, that's irrelevant. This is your way of trying to blame shift and trying to kind of put the focus somewhere else. That's not germane to the discussion. Another way they try to justify it, they can say something like, well, I had some bad influences during my earlier years. Now, in many cases, that's very true. Many people who are abusers have themselves been abused, and my heart goes out to them. I'm sorry that happens. In fact, that's a very well-known statistic that a very high percentage of abusers have been abused. I'm glad that you see it. But then the question is, well, does that excuse, though, your continuation of the same? Let's take your understanding of your troubled history and turn it into therapeutic adjustments and growth. Good. Yes, that's good. But let's not turn that into a blame shifting. Well, it's not me. It's not you. It's those people in my past that actually are the cause of this. It still doesn't take you off the hook completely. And then in addition, they can minimize your agony. It's like, oh, come on, enough's enough, okay? And so part of their justification is they may say something like, well, you need to just get over it, or why can't you forgive me? I mean, what's holding you up? And I have heard that one way too many times, and it's a major slap in the face. And then here's the one that just can be the ultimate slap in the face for someone else, for the abused person, and that is, you know what? I get along with everyone else in this world except you. And so they'll talk about how they're virtuous with everyone else, but you're the problem. And so again, that's blame shifting, and of course, it tends to be extremely dishonest, and they're overlooking a whole lot there. So it's bad enough that you have been the recipient of abuse. And then when the narcissist goes into this kind of justification, it just doubles down on the abuse, and it's like pouring salt in an open wound. And I'm sorry that you have to deal with this. The question we have is when this kind of reaction to abuse occurs, what does this reveal? Now, first and foremost, I hope you can see narcissists are eaten up with self-loathing. And by that, I mean they despise anybody opening up their life story and saying, we need to take a look at this. We need to examine why you're struggling and why you're hurting and why you do the things that you do. It's like, no, I hate that part of myself to the extent that I don't even want to look at it. I don't want to admit it. I despise even the topic. And so it's their self-loathing, but they'll just push it off and say, "Now you're using psychobabble on me." Also, it reveals that when narcissists inflict pain, it's because that's what they carry on the inside. These are pain-burdened individuals. And again, my heart goes out to them, but typically you give away what you already possess on the inside, and that's what's doing. And so they want you to think you're the problem, but they're illustrating how troubled they are on the inside. Don't forget that part, and don't let them trick you into thinking it's all about you. And then we can also say that if a narcissist is going to take this bad episode or these bad episodes and heal, it's going to require long-term accountability, long-term soul searching. I have had some cases where there have been some really, really ugly abuse situations where it prompted a major turnaround. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen as often as I would like. In a high percentage of the case, they may start out by saying, okay, I'll be different, but then they just kind of return to the same old patterns. So don't let the narcissist be your filter system that you grade yourself through. They don't have a good handle on who you are. And let's underscore, no one deserves abuse. And if someone else has been inappropriate, I hope that you hear this and hope you hear it loud and clear. Their abusive, condescending behavior toward you does not take away in any way your inherent worth. I hope that videos such as this can give you some good things to think about. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so. We'll keep more videos coming toward you. There are times when you're dealing with something like this, especially something like what we're talking about today, that you could use some therapeutic adjustment and help. I've been sponsored for years by the people at BetterHelp.com. And if you have experienced something like this, it would be good perhaps if you could go through the link below. We found that online therapy can be very helpful. Sometimes that's the only availability you have. All you have to do is answer a few questions, and you get to select a therapist who can help you work this through. And as you do, it can be so refreshing for someone to say, I really do want to get to know you. As the need is there, please, I implore you, get the assistance that you need. Now, as part of that, in my retirement from my therapy office, I pulled together my 40 plus years of experience as a therapist and put them into courses, online classes, and there are links below for that as well as on my website. Each course has at least 25 teaching videos with handouts and guided questions. We have anger games. We have This Is Me, about establishing your boundaries, Free to Be, finding yourself despite their controlling ways, Ready, Set, Connect, about having healthy connections. So avail yourselves to those. And on my website, we also have access to my webinars, which are 90-minute presentations. They've been very popular, along with my articles, my podcasts, my books. Lots of resources. Please get yourself the assistance that's needed. No one's going to take care of you as well as you're going to take care of you. I know that abuse is a difficult topic. Unfortunately, too many people have had to be on the receiving end of that. My heart goes out to you. Again, I hope you hear that. As you're able to find recovery from this, I'm hoping you can get to the place of saying, there's a steady person inside of me, and I'm going to claim that. And the deeper you go into your efforts toward that, I'm hoping you can take yourself closer and closer to becoming a person of true peace.